Outside of China, 90% of all global card payments flow through just two companies, Visa and Mastercard. Combined, they control a private global network worth over $1 trillion. While average businesses operate on a 10% margin, Visa sits at 55% and Mastercard at 45%. Through the Honor All Cards rule, every swipe lets the processor extract a 3% middleman fee from the merchant to fund corporate profits. For 60 years, this infrastructure has functioned as a mandatory private toll road. Merchants worldwide are forced to pay this tax to participate in the digital economy. In 2009, India presented a different economic reality. 90% of the population relied exclusively on physical cash for every transaction. Consider a 50 rupee street food purchase. If a vendor operates on a thin margin, losing 3% to a transaction fee often wipes out their entire profit on that sale. Because of these costs, the physical infrastructure for cards barely existed. Out of over 1 billion people, fewer than 1 million retailers had the expensive point-of-sale machines required to process card payments. India's economy required a different logic for digital money, a system that functioned without a toll. In 2009, the Indian government decided that digital payments should be treated as a state-backed utility, digital public infrastructure, rather than a private corporate enterprise. To execute this, the government established the National Payments Corporation of India, which launched the Unified Payments Interface, or UPI, in 2016. This graphic shows the architectural difference. Instead of routing through middleman processors, a UPI transaction uses a simple QR scan to connect the buyer's bank directly to the merchant's bank. With the middleman removed, the transaction fee drops to zero for both parties. Despite being free, UPI struggled in its first year. In 2016, the system processed only 2.6 million transactions, as people remained hesitant to move away from the familiarity of cash. Infrastructure alone was not enough. To move a nation of 1 billion people toward digital payments, it took a series of unavoidable systemic shocks. The first shock arrived in November 2016. The government announced that 86% of the country's physical currency would be invalidated at midnight. As queues formed outside bank branches, vendors across the country began adopting paper UPI QR codes to survive the sudden cash shortage. The 2020 lockdowns provided the second accelerant. With physical contact restricted, contactless UPI payments became a permanent daily habit for millions. Today, this infrastructure is moving into the credit market. In 2022, UPI integrated pre-approved credit lines through the domestic RuPay network. As this flowchart shows, local banks now handle authorizations and risk directly through the QR scan. By mid-2024, this domestic network captured 50% of all new credit cards issued in India. With credit transactions doubling year over year, and RuPay's total market share jumping from 3% to 18%, the system is now competing directly for the high-value market that the American duopoly relies on for its global profits. The risk of relying on foreign financial networks became visible in February 2022. Within days of the invasion of Ukraine, Visa and Mastercard suspended operations in Russia. As U.S. companies, they are legally bound to enforce Washington's foreign policy, giving the U.S. government an effective off-switch for another nation's economy. Yet this compliance is often selective. In 2023, investigations found these same networks ignored warnings while processing $1.5 billion monthly for sanctioned militants in Iraq, because the transactions were profitable. These events highlighted a critical truth for international governments. Relying on external payment processors is a national security vulnerability. India is now exporting UPI to countries like France, Peru, and Namibia, helping them build their own sovereign payment networks that can connect to one another. UPI belongs to a broader open-source ecosystem known as the JAM Trinity. This structure combines digital identity, bank accounts, and mobile access to provide complete financial inclusion. During its G20 presidency, India positioned this model as a new global standard for digital infrastructure in developing nations. Critics point to the $60 million annual cost of maintaining UPI. However, just like a public highway, it generates macroeconomic growth by allowing money to flow without the friction of private fees. By redefining money as a public utility rather than a corporate toll road, India broke a 60-year monopoly and provided the world with a blueprint for financial sovereignty.